Welcome to the Halloween night Veroscope analysis of my favourite witch this evening, Wendi Adelson, who we are going to be analysing the transcript of the when she had immunity in the trial of Katherine Magbanua, who has been found guilty and has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Dan Markel. If you're new to the trial and you're new to this particular witch, here she is, Wendy in all her glory, this wonderful 31st of October, Halloween. And she has yet to be arrested or charged or convicted. So as it stands today, she is innocent. However, Dan Markel was murdered. He was shot twice in the head by hitmen that her family organized and paid for, and her brother has been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and her mother, Donna, has also been convicted and has been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole as well. So before we begin, quick thank you to the trial channel, who have very kindly allowed us to use their footage to analyse Wendy on the stand, who we're going to watch in just a second. But just before we do, there's a critical part of the evidence which I want to bring to your attention, so that when you hear it said, it'll ring a bell. And the prosecutor, she says, "And did she ever suggest that you could bribe your husband to allow the relocation?" And Wendy says she did. And the prosecutor says, "And how much money did she suggest that she and the family would be willing to put up for such a bribe?" This is to bribe Dan Markel to move from Tallahassee to Miami, I believe. And Wendy says, "They said that they would go as high as $1 million, which would be $333,000 each." "And who are the each?" the prosecutor says. Who are the people? And Wendy says, "My mum, who has been sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, my dad, who is yet to be arrested and charged, and Charlie, who has also been prosecuted and found guilty and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole." So the two individuals who are aware of the potential bribe of $1 million, which didn't work, and subsequently Donna and Charlie arranged for hitmen because the $1 million bribe didn't work. Well, the other people involved in this conspiracy to pay the $1 million bribe are Wendy's father and Wendy. So the question then is, Harvey, that is, the question then is there enough evidence for Harvey Adelson and Wendi Adelson to be arrested and charged and convicted for the crime of hiring the hitmen, or conspiracy to hire the hitmen to murder Dan because the bribery didn't work? Let's hear what the witch has to say this evening.
How long after you moved out of the home did you file for divorce?
I actually don't remember the answer to that. I'm assuming I would have filed for divorce right away.
Within a month sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, I'm going to show you Exhibit 59 and ask you to take a look at the exhibit. I do not expect you to look at everything in this exhibit, but I think you had an opportunity to look at this exhibit previously a little bit, right?
I don't have any memory of that.
Okay, so this is the first time you've ever seen this exhibit?
It's the first time I remember. It's
right,
very big.
Take a look and kind of just thumb through it. Again, don't expect you to familiarize yourself with every page. My question.
So what we notice straight away is the obstructive nature of Wendy on the stand. We're looking at her facial expressions. Everything's difficult. It's like getting blood out of a stone. She's pretending that she doesn't know what this document is. It's her own document that she's filed, but let's carry on.
Ms. Adelson, you can look through it as much as needed to answer this question.
She had a question. What was your question?
It looks like it's about 800 pages long, so you want me to
I want you to look through it as much as is needed to answer the following question. Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of your divorce file?
I mean, from the front page, sure.
Okay. Do you have, thumb through it a little bit and just see if there's any reason to dispute that that's your complete divorce file from the clerk's office. It's certified if you want to take a look at the certification.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I want you to take a look, if you would, at the petition that is on State's Exhibit 59, pages 1 through 5.
The one right on top?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All the pages should be numbered through, so I'm referring to 1 through 5 on the bottom right corner there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was your petition for divorce, correct?
Yes.
And so this was, would you agree that this was a contentious divorce?
I think it was made much more difficult by Danny, who didn't want to get divorced, but sure, we can call it contentious.
Not what we would classify as an amicable divorce. You hear about those?
No, it would be not an amicable divorce.
All right. And part of what you were seeking in your divorce in these documents in front of you was permission from the court to move with your children to South Florida. Is that correct?
That was part of the overall divorce proceedings.
All right. And specifically on pages 43 through 50, there's a petition to include a request to be allowed to relocate with minor children. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And why were you seeking to move to South Florida?
I was seeking a place that would be stable and permanent for the kids and me. Danny never planned on staying in Tallahassee. It was just a question of time before he moved to New York to be with his girlfriend or had dreams of being at Harvard. So Tallahassee was just a temporary stopping point. I wanted a place that was permanent for us, where we had family support.
And why did South Florida seem like a place of permanence to you?
Right. Because we had family support, because I work in immigration. There were a lot of career opportunities for me there.
Are you from South Florida?
I am.
Okay. And when you say family support, what family resided there?
My mother, father, and brother.
Was the relocation to South Florida the most important part of your divorce?
No.
Was it your most non-negotiable term?
No.
Okay. But it was very important to you?
I wouldn't say it was very important to me.
Was it very important to your mother?
She was much more looking forward to having her daughter and her grandchildren home. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so she's avoiding any level of truth or motive where the move to South Florida is present.
If you would take a look for me at page 46, paragraph E. Just read that to yourself and let me know when you've had an opportunity to read that. And in those paragraphs, Ms. Adelson, are you alleging that Mr. Markel has created a hostile work environment for you at the Florida State University College of Law?
He did during a period of time.
All right, and was disparaging you to your colleagues. And if you'll take a look at pages beginning on 79, the document beginning on 79, and the question is this Mr. Markel's 23-page response to your motion to relocate?
You're asking me, is this
his response to your motion to relocate?
Yes, it looks like it.
All right, it's quite verbose. Would you agree with that?
I imagine it is. At some point, Danny fired or alienated all of his attorneys and started doing his own legal work. So
fair to say he was adamantly opposed to you taking his kids to South Florida.
Yes, he shared all of that here, which is different than the conversations we had. But
that's what he filed.
What he filed is what the judge sanctioned him for.
All
yes.
Right. And in that filing, I'm specifically referencing to page 8.
So she couldn't help but put a little dig in, and she's constantly doing little digs, which we can categorize as victim blaming, whether it's dreams of going to Harvard or firing lawyers or any other way which she has a slight little dig at her ex-husband. Don't forget who was shot by the hitmen. Little digs here and there.
C2, where Markel states that the sole stated reason the wife seeks to relocate with the party's minor children is so she can be closer to her parents. My understanding is you don't agree that's why you wanted to move.
It wasn't the sole reason why I wanted to move.
But you do agree it was a reason.
It was absolutely a reason. I wanted to create some stability for my kids, and having family around helps have a more stable environment.
Is it fair to say that your mother, Donna Adelson, was following these divorce proceedings pretty closely?
She was definitely being a little bit over-involved, yeah.
She was pretty invested in your personal life. Is that fair to say?
And we have a constant type of attitude where everything is minimized and everything is ever so slightly for the good reasons. And, good mum, nice family, everything smiley and happy, nothing to do with a murder and hitmen and bribery. Do you see the difference? And it's being done strategically on purpose by the witch.
She is one of those moms, yes.
All right. And we've talked about your mom, Donna Adelson. Who's your father?
What is my father's name?
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Adelson.
And where do Donna and Harvey live currently?
They live in Miami.
All right. And are you still very close with your parents?
I am.
All right. And do you still live in close proximity to your parents?
I live about a 15-minute drive away.
And where did they live at the time that Dan Markel was killed?
They lived in Coral Springs, Florida.
And were you close with your mom back around the time that you were living in Tallahassee?
I was.
And did she have a close relationship with your children as well?
She did.
Are your parents employed?
Right now, they are both retired.
What about back in 2014?
In 2014, they were both employed.
How were they employed then?
Then my father had a dental practice, and my mom was managing his practice.
What's the name of the dental practice?
Dr. Harvey Adelson, DDS.
All right. Does Adelson Institute ring a bell as well?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know whether the practice there was successful, meaning lucrative?
At one point it was, and
what about between 2013 and 2016? Was it lucrative at that time?
Between 2013 and 2016, it was definitely, the business was doing better than it did after that point when the social media barrage happened.
Referring to this case?
Absolutely.
Okay. But previous to the murder, the Adelson Institute was earning approximately $2 million in profit each year.
I have no idea what it was earning. I haven't the slightest idea, but
do you know whether your parents had other investments other than their work at the Adelson Institute?
I don't know.
You don't know if they own any properties?
I know now that they own properties, but I didn't then.
Okay. And do you know now that they owned properties then?
I actually don't know when they acquired the properties, so I don't know.
All right. Was your divorce impacting your family financially? So this is prior to the murder and the social.
It was certainly impacting me financially, but I don't think it was impacting the rest of my family.
All right. How many lawyers did you have in your divorce?
I had one, and then Danny accused her of ethical violations and stealing money, and so I had to hire a new attorney. I think he had 3 or 4.
So here we have another little example. She can't help herself. She has to keep having a dig at Danny constantly. She won't answer the questions clearly about her. Everything has to be twisted and sidetracked to having a dig. It's constant.
No, I was talking about you. So you had 2.
I had one, and then I had to get another, yes.
All right. And who paid for those 2 attorneys?
I did.
Okay. Did your mom retire from the dental practice during the time of your divorce to facilitate her spending more?
The prosecutor has no respect for this witness at all. She sees through her. And did you see that stare back from Adelson to the prosecutor when she was effectively caught, rather than answering the question, she was caught having a dig and victim blaming at Danny, and she didn't like it being caught, so she gave the stare. I don't know if anyone saw that, but if you fancy rewinding it, it's pretty obvious.
You are both Jewish, correct?
Yes.
All right, and both of you did agree to raise the children within the Jewish faith?
We did. And we have.
Okay, so what were the differences between the two of you on that front?
Probably in the observance of keeping kosher. So I don't keep kosher, and Danny did, and that became difficult to do in Tallahassee and difficult to do with differing beliefs around that.
Can you explain for the jurors what keeping kosher means?
Sure. It's a separation of milk from meat. So you couldn't have a cheeseburger, for example, right? You couldn't have milk with a meat product. And the meat has to be killed in a... I wouldn't say it was very important to me.
Was it very important to your mother?
She was much more looking forward to having her daughter and her grandchildren home, yeah.
All right. If you would take a look for me at page 46.
Apologies, I managed to go back slightly. I'm going to fast
Just
forward.
read that to yourself.
Judge sanctioned him for,
All
yes.
right. And in that filing, I'm specifically referencing to page 82, where Markel states that the sole stated reason the wife seeks to relocate with the party's minor children is so she can be closer to her parents. My understanding is you don't agree that's why you wanted to move.
It wasn't the sole reason why I wanted to move.
Okay. But you do agree it was a reason.
It was absolutely a reason. I wanted to create some stability for my kids, and having family around helps have a more stable environment.
Is it fair to say that your mother, Donna Adelson, was following these divorce proceedings pretty closely?
She was definitely
Okay, I'll fast forward again.
Involved. Yeah.
She was around the time that you were living in Tallahassee.
I was.
And did she have a close relationship with your children as well?
She did.
Are your parents employed?
Right now, they are both retired.
What about back in 2014?
I don't know.
You don't know if they own any properties?
I know now that they own properties, but I didn't then.
Okay, and do you know now that they owned properties then?
I actually don't know when they acquired the properties, so I don't know.
All right, was your divorce impacting your family financially? So this is prior to the murder and the...
It was certainly impacting me financially, but I don't think it was...
Okay, apologies for that. I went back a little bit. So let's catch up with the actual analysis itself. So here we heard from the prosecutor, at some point, Danny fired or alienated all of his attorneys and started doing his own legal work. So fair to say he was adamantly opposed to you taking his kids to South Florida. Wendy says, yeah, he shared all of that here, which is different than the conversations we had. But that's what he filed. What he filed is what the judge sanctioned him for. So we have unnecessary information. She's telling us Dan said something different to her privately. We see that this is sensitive. What did Dan say privately that was different from the opposition filing? And this suggests private negotiations or discussions about relocation occurred. So we have a principle in statement analysis. Unnecessary information is always significant. We didn't ask about private conversations. She introduced this because it's important to her. And when someone volunteers that something is different than another thing, they're revealing sensitivity about the comparison. Do you remember she said definitely a little bit? She said, the prosecutor said, is it fair to say that your mother, Donna Adelson, was following these divorce proceedings pretty closely? And Wendy says she was definitely being a little bit over involved. So, definitely, strong confirmation, it was significant. A little bit minimization, trying to reduce the importance. So within the sentence, we have contradiction. It can't be both definitely and then a little bit. So what's going on in the brain here with Wendy? We have internal conflict between the truth, which is definitely to the question, is it fair to say your mother, Donna, following the divorce, very closely, or pretty closely rather. But to Wendy, this is such a sensitive question because Wendy knows that there's been a conspiracy to have Danny killed and murdered by Donna and Charlie, and possibly by herself and her father, possibly. And we know she knows that Donna and Charlie are 100% involved, and we can say that because they've both been convicted. So she's trying to get distance between anything that will prove this. And so linguistically, we're seeing evidence, or it's a coincidence, that she knows. Do you see? So this, just literally in this sentence, we're seeing the evidence that she's trying to create distance. And when we break it down forensically, she can't successfully minimize Donna's involvement. She has to say definitely with her little smile and her little doe eyes, but then wants to minimize. So it's definitely a little bit. And this contradiction signals extreme sensitivity. She's protecting Donna and herself by default while admitting boundary violations. Does that make any sense? I hope that makes sense. Although on this 31st of October, we're being, we're adding a bit of levity. It is Halloween. It is a serious matter. And so when we see specific contradictions like this, it's worthwhile spending some time actually analyzing it. So when someone uses contradictory modifiers, definitely a little bit, it reveals internal conflict between truth and desired narrative. The brain cannot successfully reconcile the contradiction. And so we get that little strange smile that she does, the little doe-eyed strange smile. She was definitely being a little bit over-involved. Then we heard her say, one of those mums, a normalization, trying to make light of it. Yeah, she was pretty invested in your personal life. Is that fair to say? And Wendy says, she is one of those mums, yes, trying to join in with the prosecutor as if the two of them are pals, but they're not at all, are they? The prosecutor has zero respect for Wendy. None. In fact, she wants, in my view, to prosecute her, and will, in my opinion. So we have the present tense is, we notice when tenses are either change or are unusual. Not was, Donna's behavior continues. She is one of those mums, Wendy says. One of those categorizes as a common type, trying to normalize the behavior of the person who had Dan Markel killed. Confirms the controlling nature, but tries to reframe it when the prosecutor asks if is she over controlling. Let's go back to the trial. I did muck it up a little bit, I'm afraid, when I paused the video. So hopefully it's back to where it was. Do forgive me for that.
Impacting the rest of my family.
All right. How many lawyers did you have in your divorce?
I had one, and then Danny accused her of leave of absence here and there.
All right. Did you discuss your marital problems and the resulting legal issues with your mother?
I'm sure I did.
Is it fair to say your mother is a controlling person?
I think my mom is and was very invested in my life. I don't think of her as a controlling person.
Is it fair to say around the time of your divorce that your mom did not like Dan Markel?
I think that's fair to say. I think she was very disappointed by the way he treated me.
In fact, she despised him, didn't she?
I can't speak to how my mom felt or whether she despised him. I think she was very disappointed.
She sent you some emails to indicate her feelings about Dan Markel around that time, didn't she?
She did.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 63.
Wendy's a lawyer, so whenever the prosecutor asks a question about how does such and such feel, or how does this person feel, or how do you think this person thought, she's an experienced enough lawyer that she's got a standard response. You know, I can't speak for how they feel, so she avoids the questions quite cleverly.
Ms. Cappleman, do you want me to read it?
No, ma'am. Just take a look at those and tell me if you can authenticate them as emails that were sent to you from your mother.
I can authenticate them.
All right. So the donnaharvey@gmail.com is your parents' shared email address. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But these emails were coming from your mother based on the context. Is that right? Not your dad.
I imagine they probably represented both of their feelings. They've been married 51 years, so sometimes my mom speaks for my dad.
Isn't that interesting? Because we've recently analysed, after Donna's sentencing, what Harvey Adelson said at her pre-sentencing hearing. And many people think that Donna wrote the speech for him, because the linguistics are broken and there are different, it appears that there are different authors, partly him and partly Donna. So interesting that Wendy here says that Donna speaks for him, isn't it?
All right, so there's one, I believe it's on top there, dated May 3rd, 2013. Was that about 3 months before your divorce was finalized?
My memory is that our divorce was finalized in June 2013. So
Okay.
Wouldn't that just be 1 month before?
I had July 31st, so
Okay.
whatever is your memories.
So, okay, this was May and our divorce was finalized in July then.
Okay. Just want to talk a little bit about the emails that are in front of you there. So on that first email dated May 3rd, 2013, page 1 of 5, and the second real paragraph, does your mother indicate that the most important
Objection.
part of your divorce is
Objection.
relocation?
Hold on a second, Ms. Cappleman.
I don't believe this item is in evidence, Your Honor.
The items have not been admitted into evidence at this point, Ms. Cappleman.
Correct.
All right, so I don't want you reading from them if they haven't been admitted into evidence.
All right. Ms. Adelson, did your mother indicate to you that to her the most important part of your divorce is relocation?
Your Honor, objection.
That's sustained.
Okay, Judge, at this time I would ask to approach.
Sidebar of the witness.
Sidebar.
Oh.
I'm sorry. All right, Ms. Adelson, what was the most important part of your divorce to your mother?
You're asking in reference to the email or not in reference to the email?
Not in reference to the email.
So just in general, what
Yes.
for her, it was probably for me to be safe and be in a stable situation with the boys.
Okay, would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the emails in front of you, State's Exhibit, which are marked as State's Exhibit 63?
If I look at it, she's saying
Hold
here.
on a second. Just review
Just,
it, okay?
If you'd read to yourself about the first half of that second real paragraph.
Just review it to yourself, and then Ms. Cappleman will ask you another question.
All right, does that refresh your recollection about what your mother felt was the most important non-negotiable term of your divorce?
It does.
Okay, and what was that?
That was relocation.
And did your mother, I think you said she was very unhappy with him. Did you agree that she despised him?
I can't speak to whether my mom despised him or didn't. She was very, very disappointed with the way he treated me.
Okay, and did she ever call him names?
I don't remember her calling him names.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the emails for that?
I'm happy to.
Okay, if you'll take a look at page 1, about halfway down, just read those few sentences there, and then I will draw your attention to page 2 when you're ready. Actually, you know what? For refreshing purposes, I'm going to approach with my copy. And I'm just going to kind of draw your attention to the items highlighted in green. If you'll just look at those to yourself and then flip through and look for those items highlighted in green.
Okay.
Did your mom ever refer to your husband as an asshole,
Yes.
a bully,
Yes.
a zealot,
A religious zealot. Yes.
a jackass,
Yes.
a religious extremist?
Yes.
What about Jibbers? She calls him Jibbers?
Yeah, Jibbers is not a bad name. It was a silly name that I came up with during a period of time when I felt incredibly terrorized by Danny. And so it was a word that I would use to kind of make him seem less scary.
Is it fair to say?
Hold on. Who's the witch here? Incredibly terrorized by Danny. This is the family that has hired hitmen to shoot him in the head twice. Absolute BS.
That it was a derogatory term?
No?
Okay, but you came up with it directly in relation to him terrorizing you.
I did. It was a way to take the steam out of a situation I found scary. I wouldn't say it was derogatory. I just think it was.
And when you say scary, are you alleging physical abuse?
So let's analyze this. So she's saying terrorized. Now it's changed to scary and taking some of the steam out of it. And Jibbers is just a silly name. So none of it makes any sense. She's lying.
I'm not alleging physical abuse.
All right. What types of things did your mother suggest that you could do to try to coerce or acquire the ability to relocate your kids to Miami?
She suggested that I could change the religion
Of who?
of my children.
And why would that affect the relocation effort?
Because religion was so important to Danny that would be a real hot button thing.
Okay. And did she ever suggest that you could bribe your husband to allow the relocation?
She did.
And how much money did she suggest that she and the family would be willing to put up for such a bribe?
So I just saw the bribe reference, but I didn't see the amount. If you want to show me.
I will refresh you on that. I'm going to page 15 of the document. Look at that highlighted portion and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
Okay.
How much money was your family willing to put up to bribe Dan Markel to let you move to Miami with kids?
They said that they would go as high as $1 million, which would be $333,000 each.
And who are the each?
My mom, my dad, and Charlie.
Did Charlie, you mentioned he also lived in South Florida. Was he employed at the family dental practice?
He worked there sometimes.
And what type of work did he do?
He is a periodontist, so he would sometimes do implants or surgery for people.
Did your motion for relocation?
And since it's Halloween, and we've done some of Charlie's testimony, he would carry a gun in his scrubs. And as he was doing an implant for you, he would be very careful not to stick his gun in your ribs as he leant over the chair. And if you want to go and have a little look at his testimony that we've already analyzed, he talks about his gun in his scrubs.
Get granted or denied by the court?
It was denied by the court.
So you were not legally permitted to move to Miami?
No.
Did you have an alternative? You mentioned previously that there was a hostile work environment at Florida State University as a result of your husband. Or your ex-husband at this point, was the failure to be able to relocate, did that cause you to remain in that environment?
It did.
For how long?
I don't remember the date that the petition to relocate was denied. If you could show me the binder, I could find the date.
And I'll draw you to pages 262 and 263.
In the binder? Oh. Okay, so the order was on June, no, what the date is. It was June 20th, 2013. So I was still working at the law school through July 2014, so I stayed for one more year.
Okay, and it was subsequent to his death that you were able to find new employment that was in a less hostile work environment. Is that accurate?
I mean, eventually after his death, I found new employment. It took me a little while.
Okay. How long did you stay in Tallahassee after your husband was killed? Ex-husband, sorry.
Stayed a couple of days. And then...
Apparently, she was all packed up and ready to go even before he was shot. And she was off. As soon as he was murdered, she was off, packed, ready. I wonder how she knew.
After I had asked the police for protection at the funeral or in my home, and they refused, I decided to just go for a couple of days and spend a few days away from Tallahassee. And then this case hit CNN.
So here we have an excuse. It's now the police's fault that she was ready to scarp her. And I think she's about to blame the media. Let's have a quick listen.
And hit the media. And I
So
didn't
I don't
feel
mean to
safe.
interrupt you, but the question was, how long did you stay in Tallahassee after your husband was killed?
I'm sorry, Ms. Cappleman. I stayed for a few days.
Thank you. All right, so how did your mom take...
So as a deceptive marker, all of that unnecessary language and excuse making is because she's sensitive to the fact she was packed and ready to go the moment her husband was murdered. And if we extrapolate that out to how on earth would she have known to pack and get ready? She's trying to give the jury the impression, and us the impression, that no, she wasn't packed and ready to go. It was because of the media, and she was worried about the police not giving her protection from the hitmen. So she's lying. I see this as evidence that she's involved and knew when the murder was going to happen, and so she was packed and ready and waiting for it. And this is the wonderful Halloween witch that we're dealing with tonight. I need a hat for her.
The news that you were not going to be able to relocate.
She was very upset.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about the litigation that continued after your divorce was final. Was there a motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement and hold Dan Markel in contempt of court filed by you?
Yes.
And a few months later, did he respond with a counter motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement's final provisions, alleging some violations that he said you made on the marital settlement agreement?
Yes.
And these filings are pretty venomous. Is that a fair?
Should we catch up with the analysis? Where are we? So, the double denial. She says no idea plus the slightest idea. The prosecutor says, but previous to the murder, the Adelson Institute, the dentistry, was earning approximately $2 million in profit each year. Do you remember that? And Wendy says, I have no idea what it was earning. I haven't the slightest idea. So when somebody isn't comfortable with their denial, they tend to try and back it up. So when we see a denial needing a backup, we put in a deceptive marker, a deceptive flag. So here we see the denial, but psychologically her brain isn't comfortable with that. It doesn't seem believable to her, so she backs it up some more. Do you see how the brain works that way? I have no idea what it was earning. Her brain feels uncomfortable. I haven't the slightest idea. And so psychologically we note that this was needed. And very often the reason why it's needed is because the person is lying. Does that make sense? So two denials in immediate succession with escalating emphasis, no idea becomes slightest idea. So we have a change in language. And what you'll start to notice, those who have been following Veroscope for a while now, is that principles will, so in other words, a change of language is a principle, and a statement needing backup is a principle. What you'll notice as you get more advanced is that the principles will often merge and so become more powerful as a result. When we see a merger of principles, then we could determine that it's even more sensitive than it was. So perhaps another example of that might be when we see a merger of principles in the negative. It becomes doubly important again. So we're beginning to see some advanced concepts, which is the merger of principles of statement analysis. So, keeping it simple, what this reveals: extreme sensitivity about the family wealth. She needs us to believe she doesn't know. The repetition reveals this is critically important to her, and it protects against the motive, which is the wealthy family with $1 million available to bribe Dan Markel, which didn't work. He wasn't the kind of man to take the million, and so they killed him instead. So here we have the statement analysis principle. When someone gives multiple denials to one question, it marks the highest level of sensitivity. One, I don't know, is sufficient for most people. Two means it's critically important. She convinces us that she's ignorant of the family finances. I don't think Wendy was ignorant of the family finances at all. At all. She knows full well that her dad was earning good money. So this denial, to me, is an indicator of deception. Then she goes on to say, I'm sure I did. Weak commitment. The prosecutor says, did you discuss your marital problems and the resulting legal issues with your mother, Donna? I'm sure I did. Innocent as the driven snow. I'm sure I did. So here we have, I'm sure. This is a hedge. This is not a yes, which she could have easily said. But instead, I'm sure. It's hedging language, so we note it. In goes the deception flags. Not from memory. Not from memory is this linguistics. She's reasoning or having us believe that she's reasoning and not remembering the question. The question was very simple. Did you discuss your marital problems and the resulting legal issues with your mother? Yes, is the correct answer, but instead her brain, being deceptive by nature and being obstructive by nature and wanting to stay away from any motive, instead she uses the language of deception, which we see, and she says, I'm sure I did. It's weak commitment. It's from reasoning, not from memory. It's another deception from Wendy. So what this reveals, she's being careful not to overcommit to discussions with Donna. Of course she discussed it, but she won't say definitively. She's giving herself elbow room. She's giving herself escape routes. This protects against follow-up questions about what they discussed. She's keeping her options open to go one way or the other, or plausible deniability. I'm sure I did. It makes it so much easier when the next detailed questions to arrive to say, I can't recall, or I don't recall, which is weaker, etc. So, we heard her say very invested, not controlling. The prosecutor says, is it fair to say your mother is a controlling person? Wendy says, I think my mum is and was very invested in my life. Do you see the minimization? I don't think of her as a controlling person. So I think, we see it twice. I think, don't think. So we see think and think in the negative. Very invested. So she won't go for controlling. She changes the language. She heard the language. She doesn't answer the question. What do we know about not answering the question or changing the question and trying to answer it? It's a deceptive marker. It's very popular with politicians. They'll switch the question. They might say something like, blah, 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 which reminds me of new question, answer that question. And that's their pattern. It's deceptive. What this reveals, she can't deny Donna was controlling, so she renames it as invested. It sounds better, doesn't it? And then I don't think of her as, which again, she's playing this doe-eyed, whiter than white, and the driven snow, and oh, so it's just a pathetic little act. This is a witch who, in my opinion, has had her family murder her ex-husband, killed him, had him shot in the head twice by hitmen. We are not dealing with a little girl with doe eyes, which is, we're dealing with an adult female, narcissistic, gaslighting, in my opinion, evil individual, attempting to give the impression that she's this lovely lady, and she's not. So, when someone renames behavior rather than denying it, they're admitting the behavior exists. Very invested equals controlling, but sounds better. And this is linguistic substitution. She's playing games to avoid a damaging admission. Donna's hatred, the email evidence. The prosecutor says, did your mum ever refer to your husband as an asshole? Wendy, she enjoys this bit. Yes. No problem now. Is there, Wendy? No problem now. A bully? Oh, yes. A zealot? Yes. A jackass. Yes. A religious extremist. Yes. She absolutely loves this part. But she also goes on to say, I can't speak to whether my mum despised him. She was very, very disappointed with the way he treated me. So again, we have minimization on the motive for the murder, but absolutely loves the ability to indirectly victim blame. The I can't speak to routine that she does. She does this a fair bit, by the way. In fact, she despised him, didn't she? I can't speak to how my mum felt. So suddenly, after the enjoyable part for her, for the witch, I can't. It's Halloween. I can't help it. I can't speak to how my mum felt or whether she despised. In fact, I'm going out tonight, so I'm in the mood. I'm in the Halloween mood. I think she was very disappointed. Can't speak to, separates herself, and she refuses the despised. What this reveals, she won't testify anything that confirms motive, so she hedges. She knows, but she won't say. She maintains disappointed because despised sounds like motive, so she avoids that part. The Jibbers. Oh yes, the Jibbers confession. And the prosecutor says, and what about Jibbers? And Wendy says, Jibbers is not a bad name, so watch how she lies. It was a silly name, all fluffy and innocent, that I came up with during a period of time when I felt incredibly terrorized by Danny. No, because if you're terrorized, you don't come up with a silly name that isn't a bad name, do you? So here we have the tell. Con men will talk about the tell, where you give the game away basically through a glaring error. This is a glaring error because she wants to sell that Danny terrorized her. The husband that the family had killed terrorized her. She's trying to switch it. But instead, she uses the silly little innocent name, not a bad name. Just a silly name, not a bad name. Do you see? It doesn't fit. Doesn't fit at all. And here she minimizes. And so it was a word that I would use to kind of make him seem less scary. Rubbish, complete and utter lie. Is it fair to say that it was a derogatory term? No. Oh. Oh. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense at all, does it? So, hang on a second. You're supposed to be, this is a name because you're terrorized. But it's not a bad name. It's just a silly name. And it's not a derogatory term. Do you see? Do you see the direct lie? Prosecutor, but you came up with it directly in relation to him terrorizing you. She's a clever prosecutor. Excellent. Wendy, I did. It was a way to take the steam out of a situation I found scary. I wouldn't say it was derogatory. I just think it was. Can you see? Under cognitive load, having been caught in the lie, we see the complete collapse linguistically. What this reveals, incredibly terrorized, extreme language, not just scared, created the nickname to make him seem less scary. This is psychological diminishment of the perceived threat. Then she denies it was derogatory while describing the derogatory purpose. It's an incomplete sentence. I just think it was. She just essentially gave up, realizing how bloody stupid it all sounds. Okay. What time is it? Is it time to go out yet? I'm not alleging physical abuse, she says. And when you say scary, are you alleging physical abuse? I'm not alleging physical abuse. So we have her complete backtrack, back down. She essentially gives up the lie. So I think that brings us to the end of today's analysis, and we'll continue with Wendy into part 2 tomorrow, I think, Saturday night. We'll continue with Wendy Saturday night, part 2. And so that brings me to wishing everybody else a wonderful Halloween evening. And I look forward to chat with you in the comments about the witch comments, no doubt, and any other comments that we can find that are funny. Okay, speak to you in the comments. Have a lovely night.